Today we're going to explore the effects buses on the Akai Force and how you can start using them in your own mixes. While the effects buses are an advanced mixing tool, they're actually very easy to understand and also very powerful. By the end of this video, you'll have a good grasp on the effects buses and how they work, and how, when, and why to use them. Hi, my name is Joe. If you're new here, then welcome. And if you're already a subscriber, then welcome back. There are 4 effects return tracks on the Force, and you can access them by pressing the master button on your console. I'm sure you've seen them before, but how do they work? And more importantly, how can you use them to your advantage in your own projects? There are a few good reasons to use the effects buses. The big ones I can think of are consistency, CPU optimization, group control and automation, and parallel processing. If these reasons don't make sense to you yet, don't worry, they will soon. We'll talk about each of them in more detail. But first, let's talk about how the effects buses work. I'm using the word bus here, which isn't like a school bus. In the realm of audio processing, it just simply means a path or a route for audio signals to flow through. The term bus is not used on the Force's screens, but it is a commonly used, more generic term to describe audio routes or connections. I'm using that term bus here so that if you hear or read this term somewhere else, you'll understand that the effects return tracks are just a specific type of bus track. The other type of bus track in the Force are the submix tracks. Each time you create a new track that produces audio in the Force, such as an audio track, a plug-in synth, a key group, or a drum track, some connections are automatically established for you. One of these connections is to the main track that's connected to your speakers or headphones. You control the volume level of the mix of that connection using the fader for that track. Even though you may not have realized it, 4 more connections are automatically created for you as well. These are connections to each of the 4 effects returns tracks. Those 4 return tracks are also routed to the main track. But you won't actually hear any audio from those effects return tracks unless you take some action to start using them. To start using the effects buses, all we need to do is turn up the send amount from one of our audio producing tracks to one or more of these 4 effects return tracks. This sends a copy of this audio to the effects return track, and you can control the level or volume of that copy of the signal. Since this is a copy, it doesn't affect the original signal being sent to the main track at all. The signal copy includes all of the insert effects that are on that track. If there were no effects on the return track, all this would do is to make the audio from the original track sound louder in the output. There are better ways to accomplish that, of course. So, the effects return tracks are really meant for effects processing, and we'll want to add some effects to these effects return tracks. We also typically set the mix level on these effects to 100% wet, because we still have our dry signal going to the main channel from the original track. You can add any type of effects to the effects return tracks, but 2 types are very, very often used: delays and reverbs. In fact, those 2 effects are so commonly used as send effects that the default empty project in your Force already has a reverb effect placed on the first effects bus and a delay on the second one. Okay, let's look at some real examples. Okay, so I've got a very simple little project loaded up here. This is probably not going to win me any awards for soundcraft or songcraft, but I'll let you hear it real quick. I purposely actually kept the track count very low and the note count very low too, just so it's easier to hear the reverbs and other effects. And that's it. That's the whole project. So let's set up some reverbs on this, and let's do it by using insert effects so that we can start to draw some comparisons. So if I wanted to add a reverb to this bass track here, I would just come into the mixer and I could add an air reverb and come in and take a look at it, and I could play back this bass track here. Let's do that. And the first thing that we notice is that it kind of sounds like crap, right? And the reason for that, just in case you don't know it, is because the mix here is set to 100%. So all we're hearing are the reverb reflections here and none of the original signal. So let's play that back again and adjust that mix. And now it starts to sound a lot better. So let's pick a preset here, and we'll pick this large studio. And you can see that all of the presets are set to mix 100%. And if you've ever wondered why that is, it's because that the Akai engineers are actually expecting that you're going to want to use these reverbs as sound effects, where a mix setting of 100% makes perfect sense. But we'll get to that in a minute. So let's go ahead and set this up. And that sounds pretty reasonable. And if we come back and we want to add some to the electric piano, I've actually already got this set up here. So we'll just click on it, and I've set it up the same way, large studio, set the mix right. We'll just turn the effect on. So we've got a little reverb on that. And then if I do shift mixer and come over to the drum track, I've done the same thing here on the kick drum. I didn't do it at the track level because I actually didn't really want any reverb on my hi-hat. But I did go ahead and set these up the same way for the kick drum. We'll just turn that one on. And the same way for the snare drum. So we'll just turn that one on, and then we can play back everything. So that sounds pretty good, right? Yeah, it does. I mean, there's nothing wrong with setting up your reverbs this way as insert effects, but I want to show you another way to do it with the send effects. So we're just going to make some comparison points here. And the first one is I wanted to come in and take a look at my CPU meter while this track is playing. So let's do that. Looking here. And I'm just going to say that's maybe averaging about 15% or so. It kind of bounces around a little bit, but let's remember that number, 15%. So that's one thing to notice. The other thing to notice is that if I want to make any adjustments to this reverb, like say I want to adjust the electric piano reverb, I would need to come into the mixer and find my e-piano track and come in here and then maybe click on this mix thing and adjust the mix here. So even though I've only got a few reverbs set up, they're already starting to get kind of scattered all over the place, right? And if I wanted to, change the preset here, then I'd have to go back into these other reverbs and change them all. So that's what we're looking at with insert effects for reverbs. So let's take a look at another way of doing this. So I'm just going to come in here and reload this project. And now we're back to completely dry, we should be. Good. So now if I come into the mixer and I press this master button down here, you can see, like we said before, there's actually already a reverb set up here on return 1, and there's a delay on return 2. So if I come into this reverb and I choose the same preset that I had before, large studio, and you can see here the mix is set to 100%. That's actually exactly what we want for a send effect, because remember, the original dry signals are still going to the output track, and they're going to be unaffected by this. We're just sending a copy into this reverb. So we'll leave that set up like that. And I think the other thing I want to do is come over here to my mixer and press on sends. And we'll come back out of master mode so we can see the regular tracks. And here you can see we've got the send amount for return 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I can start to make adjustments to these right here. If I want to put some reverb on the bass track, let me just play that one. But another cool thing is if I hold down knobs and I put my knobs in send 1 mode, then I get the send knobs for all 3 of these tracks. So I can adjust the bass here. I can see what I'm doing up here if I'm on this screen. I don't have to be on this screen. And if I want to start adding some to the electric piano, I guess we should actually get that track playing. So that's pretty convenient, right? Just one reverb so far. If I come back into Shift Mixer and I flip back over to this drum track, we've got a sends tab here as well. So here's my kick and here's my snare, and I can adjust them here. I don't actually have a similar knobs mode for the sub mixer for the drum track, but what I do have is this new pad scene mode, which is pretty cool. If you haven't checked this out, this has like everything that you could commonly want to do to a drum pad right here on these knobs. Pretty sweet. So if I come back over into note mode, and now we can play play this track again. And what I'm going to do here, if I hold down select and select this kick pad, you can see it's on AO1. And if I hit the snare pad, you can see it switches to AO2. So it's moved to the settings for the second pad. I actually don't have to hold down select, but that will actually trigger the notes if I don't. So if I don't want to hear them, I can just press select and jump between these different pads. So since I'm doing that, we'll start on the kick drum, and I can just start adding some reverb to that. Here's the send one. Let's solo this track. And let's select the snare. We'll exaggerate it on the snare a little bit. So let's check out the CPU. And it looks like I'm going to call that, I think 11% for this. So I think we were at 15 before, we're at 11 now, so we've shaved about 4% off of the CPU, which is obviously not a huge deal in this project, right? This is just a simple little project, but if you had 20 tracks on here and 20 different reverbs, and maybe you had 5 different reverbs on the individual kit pieces, I mean, that can start adding up to a lot over the course of a project. So we definitely get some CPU optimization here. We also get better control, I think, right? Because these reverbs aren't scattered all over the place. I can just come in here into this mixer, I can have my knobs in for the main tracks in send one mode, and I can just kind of mix my reverbs right here. And the same thing with the drum tracks. I can look at the shift mixer if I want, and I can go back to the pad scene here and just select the pads I want and adjust the reverbs. So really convenient that way. But I mean, it gets even better than that, right? So if I go back to the main mixer, press my master button again, and come over here to effects, if I actually want to, change something about this, like I want to change the preset or I want to dial this in, I'm going to be doing this for all of those different sounds at the same time, right? So let's check that out. I'm in a large studio now. Say I want to change that to hall. So it just makes it really easy to do that. You get kind of that group control over everything. Let's check out one more thing here, and that is group automation. So I'll just do a really simple automation here. We'll come back to launch mode, and we need to be off the master track. And let me just make a copy of this here. So I'll copy this row to this row. And for this row up here, let's go ahead and let's turn this effect off. So now it should be dry. Perfect. And let's come over here and do get to edit launch. And let's take a snapshot of that. And then let's come back to the second row and we'll launch this. And let's turn the reverb on here and let's take a snapshot of that. So now if I play the first row and the second row, so I've automated all of those reverbs at the same time, which is pretty sweet. So let's play a little classic chicken and egg game here. I've taken that electric piano track and I've deleted the other tracks and I've just made a couple copies of that electric piano track. So on this first track, and they've got exactly the same notes, I've got a delay going into a reverb. So that means because these are in a series, the delay is fed into the reverb. All of my echoes from that delay are going to get reverberated. And on track number 2 here, I've got a reverb going into a delay, so I've just kind of switched them around. So what that means is because these are in a series, all of my reverberations are going to get echoed by this delay. So let's listen to these 2 tracks and just kind of hear the difference between them and see what they sound like. So here's the first one, delay into reverb. And reverb into delay. So which one did you like better? Which one is correct? Well, the answer is that they're both correct. It really depends on the source material and you. It's up to you, the producer, to decide which one of these sounds better. And they can be different with different source material. But, and I'm guessing that you already know where I'm going with this, there is a third option. We've got this third track set up as sound effects. So here we're neither putting a delay into a reverb or a reverb into a delay. We're sending up here, we're sending to a reverb all by itself a copy of that signal, and we're sending the delay all by itself a copy of that signal. If I flip over to the master bus and look at the effects on these tracks, you can see these are no longer running in series. They're running in parallel. So this is called parallel processing. We take the original signal, send it to the output, we take a copy, send it to the reverb, take a copy, send it to the delay, and then we mix all these signals back together at the output. So let's hear that third track and see what it sounds like. It's pretty subtle, right? I hope you've got your headphones on. Let's do each one of them. So subtle differences, but now you've got 3 different options for how you can set this kind of thing up. If this video has been helpful or enjoyable for you so far, it would be really awesome of you to hit the like button for me. Thanks for that. That helps me know that I'm on the mark. So now that we know how to do parallel processing, let's have some fun with it. I've taken this project and basically just duplicated the tracks and did some transposition so that it doesn't stay quite so boring. So let's have some fun with some of these sound effects. And since you stuck around so far, a little bonus tip for you before we get started. So let's come back over into the mixer and go to our Sends tab. And the bonus tip is this crossfader. Sometimes I really like to use this as like a temporary control. The reason for that is twofold. One, it's super easy to set up. And 2, it's available like wherever you are in the Force. It's available globally. And there are 16 of them. And it's going to come in really useful right here. So if I click on this, and we can, by the way, if you don't know, we can go through these crossfaders. If we hold down assign A and then press B, it'll page up. And if we hold B and press A, it'll go down to crossfader 1. And all we have to do to assign these things is click on the control we want to do. We can hold assign A and give it a twist. And for this one, I can page up to crossfader 2, hold assign A and give it a little twist. And now these crossfaders are controlling these send amounts, which is going to be really handy because I want to have my knobs in screen mode when I go into the master effects section to control these effects. So let's go back here to crossfader 1 and we'll just turn up the send amount a little bit and let's go add some effects to these tracks. So I'm going to come over to my master channel, hit effects, and for this first one, let's just go ahead and set up a reverb again. So we'll do the air reverb and we'll pick a preset here. And let's do a hall, and maybe let's try Philharmonic this time. And let me just start this track playing. And that sounds pretty good. We can adjust the level here. I like that. Let's move up to the other crossfader. And let's start to add some effects to return to. Let's add a delay here. And maybe try let's do quarter notes. And maybe set the feedback, I don't know, 50% or so. Let's come back and maybe add, let's do a pitch shifter here. And let's try textures. And I think let's turn the mix down on this one. And about a phaser? So pretty cool, huh? That's something you really wouldn't be able to do that without this parallel processing, because we've got two different dry signals coming into two different effects paths and applying different sets of processing to them. So there's all kinds of fun that you can have with that. That's just a quick example, but really the sky's the limit. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you've learned a lot about the effects buses and parallel processing, CPU optimization, consistency, and group control and automation. This is Joe. Until next time, take care.